Transcript of interview with Jim Sparks. Conducted by Linda Howe. Fort Myers, Florida. Subject: the alien creatures that live inside our planet, and how offering amnesty to our so-called elites is the only real solution to freeing and saving our species. Video translated and created by Michael Newman. YouTube channel: www.youtube.com/user/MichaelNew1962. Jim Sparks, abductee, 1996, Fort Myers Beach, Florida, USA. In 1995, I met a man named Jim Sparks who says he has had completely conscious encounters with small, gray, drone worker types, taller true aliens or supervisors, and tall reptoids with big, human-shaped bodies covered with scaly, reptile skin. Sparks sees himself as an interpreter or translator, or at least an elementary grade student in an alien school. He says he has been forced to learn English letter and number equivalents to alien symbols. Jim Sparks permitted me to tape record hours of our discussions about his experiences. This chapter emerged from those conversations and his efforts to visualize and write down what has happened for his own book manuscript. 1. After 8 years of being close enough to breathe their rotten egg-smelling skin, Sparks thinks he has some insights into the alien agenda, but admits he has 1,000 more questions than answers. He is frustrated that he cannot prove his contacts with alien beings. Sparks was born to Italian parents on November 15, 1954. The formal name on his birth certificate is Vincent Sparacino. He grew up in southern Florida, graduated from high school and spent a couple of years in a local college studying real estate. He moved on to Houston, Texas, in 1979, and then to North Carolina where he purchased raw land and divided lots for housing construction, but always felt the strong need to preserve the trees at his developments. Happy, married and thriving, by 1988 at age 34, Sparks suddenly came face to face with other beings from other worlds. Sparks at first thought he had lost his mind. He says he was kept totally conscious through most of the interactions, including the agony of being pulled from his bed at night to a craft. I'm usually pulled the same way, which I call the hard way, and it's completely physical. My whole body is taken. The first thing I hear is a low-pitched, whirling sound in my head, like a whip going around in the air. This is usually after I go to bed and am asleep. Normally for me, it's 3:30 a.m. in the early morning. I don't know why. I wake up from my natural sleep, and then there's the whirling sensation in the pit of my stomach and it feels like it's coming up into my chest. When it gets up to my heart area, my heart starts beating fast, just racing in my head, and the whirling sound starts picking up RPM and is tremendously loud. It starts low and rises in pitch and screams in your head. The fear is like you're going to die. Your heart is racing 1,000,000 miles an hour and then you get this acceleration feeling, but I always feel like I'm being pulled down. I never feel like I'm being pulled up. It's like I go down a roller coaster, only 100 times faster, and boom, you black out and you're there, wherever it is you're going to be, usually on board a craft. Sparks told me why he thinks that most of the time he is actually pulled physically from bed and literally moved through the walls or ceiling, as other abductees have also described. It's their technology. I know the aliens rely heavily on a created field. This field produces several things: the ability to be invisible, the ability to work in one dimension and be partially in another, and the ability to move us poor humans through solid matter. How exactly it works, I don't know. But I know it's a field. When the field is in action, you can feel it, you can sense it, you almost feel like you are a magnet or static electricity. It takes a wall as you would normally see it and makes it transparent. You walk right through it. So, it's a field that somehow separates molecules, changes your physiology when you're in it. I asked Sparks if he has been awake and conscious while actually seeing doors and walls become transparent. Only rarely. And it freaked me out. Most of the time I black out before that moment and then I'm on board the craft. I know this all sounds weird as hell, but I'm doing the best I can under very bizarre circumstances not to be scared to death, not to be intimidated, and to figure out what these bastards are up to. And I know that their technology renders different ways of transport, and one is the hard way, and I'm there in the flesh, not out of body. In early 1995, Jim Sparks had an abduction experience that changed him forever, he says, and left him obsessed with saving the rainforests and stopping the human slashing and burning by fire that is destroying them. This experience, excerpted here with Jim's permission, is puzzling because yet another alien type is introduced. These reptilian entities also provoke questions about a possible connection to viper references in Enoch of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Genesis in the Bible. Jim Sparks' encounter with reptilian humanoids, their warning and possible agenda, follows. The pulling started the usual way with a low-pitched, whirling sound, only this time, it didn't speed up as fast or get as loud, and it was more gentle. I was paralyzed again, but I momentarily regained consciousness before the final transport sequence was complete and I could see where I was going. That was a first. As my eyes opened, I saw that I was at least 1,000 feet above the ground and slowly descending. Below me was an abandoned carnival park. I was floating over a large, old-fashioned wooden roller coaster, and I wasn't scared. I was calm and relaxed, and the ride was so gentle I was actually enjoying it. When I was 20 or 30 feet from the ground, I started to slowly rock back and forth several times like a pendulum, almost like I was being guided to a target, and this was the final adjustment. Then I saw the profiles of about a dozen large creatures standing in a semicircle. Although it was night, I could make out the shapes of their body size, and they were large, even by human standards. A few inches from the ground, I blacked out. As I began to regain consciousness, I was standing and heard telepathically, loud and clear. "We would have given it to you, but we knew it wouldn't have meant anything unless you earned it. It was the only way you could possibly understand what you have been a part of and what you have to do." I now know that it was knowledge. I was clear-headed and wide-awake conscious. There were 12 large, humanoid creatures standing in almost a complete circle in which I was a part. The creatures appeared to be at least 6 feet tall. All of them had their heads turned towards the alien who was standing to my immediate left. The only apparent light source was on the face of this creature, like a hologram of a human face superimposed and glowing over the alien's face. House emphasis. It was radiating light, and this was done to disguise his true appearance. He had done this to make me feel less apprehensive. The creatures didn't take into consideration that as this holographic face spoke and moved its lips, there was no audible sound. The voice being communicated telepathically was out of sync with the lips. Plus, the face was obviously a hologram because it was slightly off-center from the body. But it worked, nonetheless, because I wasn't scared. As the Reptoids transmitted telepathically, I noticed that each alien seemed to be concentrating its thoughts to the creature on my left. One thing for sure, they were of one mind, and it said, "There are some things you need to understand. Yes, it's true that we have been in contact with your government leaders and heads of power. It is also true that agreements have been made and kept secret from your people. It is also true that, in the past, some of your people have lost their lives or have been badly hurt to protect this secret. Our hands had no part in this. We contacted your leaders because your planet is in grave trouble. Your leaders said the vast majority of your population wasn't ready for anything like us yet, so we made time agreements with your leaders as to when your people would be made aware of our presence. This part of the agreement has not at all been kept. It was also agreed that, in the meantime, steps would be taken to correct the environmental condition of your planet with our advice and technology. We say advice, because we respect the fact that this is your planet, not ours. Your government also broke this agreement." I felt an awful emotion of abandonment from these aliens. They are different. I never sensed true emotion from the other aliens before. But the feeling wasn't at all good. It felt like great loss. I couldn't help asking, "You aren't giving up on us, are you?" There was a long pause of silence and I had a strong feeling of tremendous loss. So I asked again, "Well, are you?" There was another long pause. Then finally, "No. We are now concentrating our energy on the average person. Your air and your water are contaminated. Your forests, jungles, trees and plant life are dying. There are several breaks in your food chain. You have an amount of nuclear and biological weapons which include nuclear and biological contamination. Your planet is overpopulated. Warning, it is almost to the point of being too late unless your people act now. There are better ways of deriving your energy and food needs without causing your planet any damage. Those in power are aware of this and have the capability to put these methods into worldwide use." I asked, "Why aren't we doing it now?" There was silence and the whole thing was so strange because I could see that the whole group was thinking and speaking its mind at one time. It felt good because I was a participant in an honest-to-goodness meeting. The best part was that for the first time I was getting direct answers to my questions. Why aren't we putting these new methods into use now? Those in power view it, technology for clean energy and abundant food, as a military and security threat. Then I got angry as hell and said, "You mean to tell me our people in power have the ability to save and better this planet and they aren't doing it?" The thought that technology was being held back from the public because of paranoia and greed outraged me and the aliens saw my anger. But was it true? Amnesty. What do you mean? Complete amnesty. To those in power, the governments and the leaders who have been suppressing the truth. They can't be held liable for any past wrong deeds. It is the only way these leaders can come forward with the truth. It is necessary that you do this in order to work together and survive. There was silence for a while, as if they wanted me to think about what was just said. This was a hard truth to swallow. If anybody had a good reason to hate their government for covering up this information, it was me and others like me. Most abductees still consider themselves victims who constantly suffer ridicule. When your own government's policy is to say you're just plain crazy, it only deepens the pain. But this is a time when intelligence should rule over emotions. So I asked, how do I fit in all this? What can I possibly do? What you are doing already. We will share much more knowledge with you in the future. Although you understand a lot, we will show you much more. Continue to work with people that come to you. We are aware of the small groups that are forming around the world. These are people who are prepared to learn and we consider them the core. Most important is the condition of your planet. The first step in solving this serious problem is amnesty. We have advice. You will receive more knowledge in the near future. As this was going on, it started to rain. I mean, it was pouring. The creatures didn't even budge or try to get out from under it. They didn't have to, we weren't getting wet. Although we were standing completely outdoors, with no roof, not one drop of rain touched us. I guess we were being protected by some sort of electric field. I could hear drops as they fell, but there was a clear, detectable line around us, between rainfall and no rainfall. Then they said, "It's time to go." A thought flashed into my mind. Wait, please. I have a request. I want to see what you look like. I'll never forget their response as long as I live. It will strike fear in your heart. I answered, it won't scare me so much if you don't stand there and stare at me. It would help if you would just wave at me. Just don't stare. Promise me you'll wave. Now I can't believe how stupid that request was. I had, in the flesh, face to face, probably some of the most intelligent creatures from the far reaches of the galaxy, with answers that have been plaguing mankind since the dawn of time. And what did I say? Could you wave at me? The strangest thing started to take place. A spinning white light with a hint of green began to radiate over their faces and upper bodies, all dozen of them. The intensity of the light slowly got brighter and it was radiating from no direct or detectable source. I could see they were huge. Their upper torso was strong, with huge shoulders and a thick, strong neck like football linebackers. As the light became brighter and details clearer, fear and shock zapped through me. I said, "You have scales." Their faces looked like a cross between a lizard and a snake, nothing at all like the little gray guys. Their eyes were small like ours, only diamond-shaped, and the pupils were a red color. Their heads were in normal proportion with their bodies, but bigger than ours. The skull looked like their brains stuck out over their foreheads, covered by skin. This feature was slightly different among all dozen of them. I said in a scared whimper, "You promised to wave." And each and every one of them slowly lifted their arms and waved in front of their faces. Their hands were huge with thick, club-like fingers, too thick to work fine instruments. But you have to keep in mind that their technology is thought-activated. I stood there and stared at them for a while in silence, absorbing this spectacular sight. Their message kept running through my mind. I was sure that my country has been involved with aliens. Most Americans believe there's been a cover-up. But what really got to me was the message about the poor condition of our planet. Then I felt the acceleration pull and blacked out. I understood better their nature and agenda. They are neither benevolent nor evil. They have been among us in secret for thousands of years, maybe longer. But the length of time isn't as much the issue, as why they have been among us. I believe they have been farming us for raw materials. We humans have been a self-perpetuating crop, a crop that doesn't need much tending and continues to reproduce, at least up to now and all the Earth problems. Thank goodness they don't kill us, they just use us. This system has worked well for the aliens for a long time. But now there's a problem and their investment is in trouble. They have spent a lot of time, travel and effort to farm us. But we are on an almost irreversible path of self-destruction. Nuclear and biological weapons and their waste have polluted the air, land and water. Forests, jungles and trees are being cut down or are dying. Now there are breakdowns in the food chain and the rest of the food chain is contaminated. Overpopulation, disease and viruses beyond our grasp, with new and more complicated illnesses cropping up every day. These are just a few of the problems we humans have created. Most of us are blind or numb to this reality because we can still go to the grocer and buy food. We can go to work and back and not see this death and dying. All seems almost normal. But if we environmentally destroy ourselves, the aliens still have an excellent insurance policy. They've been collecting seeds from plants, animals and humans. Through semen and ova extraction, the aliens can start us or other Earth life, all over again, here or somewhere else. Echoing the Jim Sparks experience. The major concern expressed by abductee Anno Hayes, in Voyagers, the sleeping abductees too, was competition and conflict among non-human intelligences over Earth life and their employment of the same sophisticated technologies to manipulate, deceive and inspire. Just as the original creators of the human prototype desired to see the fulfillment of our species as guardians of the Earth, there also exist forces of great power that do not wish this plan to succeed. If humans are able to fulfill their evolutionary blueprint, the Earth and many other reality fields will no longer be free for exploitation. Hayes stressed that if humans knew the truth about their extraterrestrial genetic connections, and understood how many outsiders have taken advantage of human ignorance, using sophisticated technologies to manipulate and deceive for their own gain, the human family could change and evolve in strength, not weakness. In conversation, she told me, both negative and positive agendas are producing hybrids and androids, and both sides are emphasizing the need to save the Earth's environment for their various vested interests. Guardian aliens are promoting healing the planet, but the negative groups are also trying to help the planet by offering new technologies so they can have a clean place to take over. I understand the negative ones have had time agreements with the US government about introducing their species to humans. Lately, I think the negative ones have told the government they will introduce themselves to the public if the government is not. So, the government is supposedly setting the stage to introduce the negative ones, and the negative aliens are planning to help the government clear its reputation by staging false events with holographic inserts. Human minds won't be able to tell what's real and what's not. Whatever we ultimately learn about the truth in these highly strange cases in which dire warnings are given to humans about the Earth's future, the fact is that, by the fall of 1997, Jim Sparks was still pretty much in the same place he had been after the Carnival Park meeting. He had no specific instructions about how to carry out his mission to save the environment and to move the U.S. government towards amnesty for all military and intelligence people who had signed oaths of secrecy about UFO-related matters. However, Sparks had a nighttime visitation by one of the little gray drones. He said he woke up and was conscious of the little guy standing at the foot of his bed. Then he got a clear mental picture of Rome burning and then a rainforest burning. Along with the strong telepathic communication, "You must put out the fire." Jim is confused about the association between Rome burning and the rainforest destruction, but says he wants to do something to save trees. Question. So what is being accomplished? Have you contacted groups that are already trying to save the rainforests and joined up with them? No. I have always cared about what happens to the Earth, but I've never got myself involved with any groups. This is something new to me. What am I going to say? I'm being advised by ETs? Question. What details did the Reptoids give about air and water damage? They didn't give me exact details. They told me that we've got problems with the air and water and food chain. I was told, in March 1995, that we've got about a decade to turn this thing around. Not that the world will end. But there will be problems in reversing all the damage. And the Reptoid said someone in political power already has this knowledge and technology and, they, are hoarding it for security and defense reasons. And probably for greed, too. Those black budget boys aren't coming forth with the truth because their asses are on the line. They've got all the secret organizations out there who have taken advantage of this knowledge, while everything else goes to hell. That's why the amnesty thing makes sense. Then the BBB guys can tell the truth finally about alien contact, getting alien technology, making money from it, and even maiming and killing people to protect that secret. With amnesty, they can come forward with the truth and won't be prosecuted. Question. Jim, if there is urgency, why would the aliens go to you when you have no resources to make radical changes? Maybe it isn't just me. It could be a million other abductees too, for all I know. Maybe all of us are going to do something at the same time. It's a very complicated thing. I wish I had the power today, to go down to South America and Malaysia and snuff the fires out. I don't. I know there are organizations like Greenpeace and the Sierra Club and Save the Rainforests, but have they stopped things, either? Question. Jim, what happens if there's no change in the status quo? I think the aliens want to do this with our help. But if that doesn't work, I think they are going to intervene. They use a minimal amount of energy to get the most work done. I think that if they can interact with individuals on this planet, give advice, give technology, show ways of doing things that are better for survival, they'll do that first. Question. But why? What's in it for the aliens? The same thing they've been doing with us for the past several thousand years. Question. Which is? They farm us. They clone us. They make organs from us and all kinds of stuff. I'm not saying they are wonderful benevolent beings coming down here to save the Earth. Bullshit. They have their own self-interests. Question. So, Jim, they want to preserve the Earth so they can continue to harvest DNA from certain bloodlines? Yeah. I think the Earth will be fine, eventually. But humans might not be able to live on it. You need a certain percentage of oxygen to breathe. Question. You mean the aliens are trying to get their crop to stop self-destructing, so they can keep harvesting what they need? That's right. And remember, Linda, when this stuff started happening, I didn't ask for it. And not only did I not ask for it, I didn't want anything to do with it. Note from Michael Newman, the creator and uploader of this video. As for the Reptoid agenda, in short, They are here as guests of our so-called elite. It is true, this planet is the domain of our human species, not reptoids. Yes, they do use us, but not just to simply harvest body parts, it is much more eternal than that. They are trying to find a way to create a reptoid-humanoid hybrid. One that can sustain a reptilian spirit, for purposes of reincarnation. Hopefully gaining the ability to evolve spiritually at a much faster pace. Currently it takes them 7 to 10 times longer than it takes humanoids to reach new and higher levels. Understand that there are 10 levels to this physical existence, each level activates more abilities than the last. Often these abilities and higher levels are confused by humans, as other dimensions, parallel existences or even so-called time travel. Our, Earth humans' perspective is quite limited in this regard, almost always making such a reality incomprehensible. Also since November 2011 the Reptoids' involvement with our elite and governments has been suspended, at least on this planet, due to past behavior, namely, direct interference. The Reptoids are part of, and reap many benefits from their membership/involvement with a unified galactic community. They will not risk losing such benefits. This is the real reason for their change of policies. The Reptoids are very aware of what's coming. Other than that, and from what I know, this testimony seems to be very accurate. I will be creating a follow-up video for further consideration in regards to our offering a conditional amnesty to those who have suppressed or been a part of said suppression. For I too feel it is the only real solution. End of manuscript.